Parenting is one of the most spiritual teachers. It triggers you. It makes you want to go back to your childhood.
Hey, Soul Family. Welcome to the Alive and Awake podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Kay, and I have spent the last 20 years teaching people how to work with their wounds and overcome their greatest fears so they can learn how to thrive in a world where they were only taught to conform. Each week, we will dive deep into the practical, the spiritual, and the mystical so I can teach you how to do the inner work to know yourself, trust yourself, and eventually love yourself enough to create a world where you feel fully alive, awake, and free. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button and never miss an episode. Ready? Let's dive in. Welcome to another episode, everybody. I am here with my dear friend, Aysen Dogan. She is a pioneer when it comes to children education, and she has the foundational belief that education starts at home and that it is not one size fits all for every student. I believe that we are coming to the forefront of a big educational change, and she is actually starting that. So I'm really excited to get to know her and to talk about what she is doing out there for the world, for our children, so that they can not only really have the confidence to know themselves and to believe in themselves and to learn how to cope with the problems that they have, and really to find out at the core of their own belief system that they are enough. Because as they go into this world, we all know that we get changed and we get shaped into being what the world wants us to be. And she really is starting at the very, very, very forefront to teach it. It's like, no. We get to create the world by who we are. So she started a program in her own business as an entrepreneur with Intella Kids. She has her own toy line, and I cannot wait to hear about what she is doing in the world to help our children thrive in this next generation. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Alicia. That was a beautiful introduction. Thank you.
You're welcome. So tell me about, you've had I just read your bio, and your resume is incredibly extensive when it comes to the wide array of how you've worked with kids, right? From like in a homeless setting, also in juvenile court, also in, what else does it say on here?
With children who survived cancer.
Oh, right. Like, so you've seen a lot. So you have a lot of data. And yes. So tell me about what went into creating Intella Kids. Well, what is it first? And then what went into creating it?
Okay. Intella Kids is my idea, like you described before, that education doesn't have to wait until the school starts. And education can start at home. And honestly, it takes the whole village. Education can start and happen anywhere. So we have this belief, at least from my education in early child education, that I studied for 10 years, and I've learned so much theory, that we have this belief that education will happen in school when the kids start at the age of 5 or 6, whenever. But we don't have to wait that long. So I didn't consciously started Intella Kids. I have to be honest. Intella Kids happened by my passion to spend time with children, to be in the presence of children, to love being around children. And life just shaped and happened in a way that I found myself running a business that is very unique, very authentic, because now I have the team of teachers. After so many years, I have the team of teachers that we go to students' homes and we teach them through play based on their learning styles, their personality, their interests. So that's where it comes, that it doesn't fit all. So we take each student as the whole world, as this enough wonderful, authentic, unique individual. And we just use their strengths to improve their flaws, their weaknesses, to just help them to be even better. They're already amazing.
Ah,
So
you're so speaking my language.
they are, yes, they are we go to homes now. I have this Intella Kids is this company that we work with children in the comfort of their home, and we work based on their interest. It's that we have 45 minutes to 1 hour sessions with children, and I see at this point us as not really teachers or not really tutors, but the life coaches for young children and the professional friends for young children, that they can feel safe, accepted, allowed to try to bring the light out. And with my educators and myself, that we all have this purpose to make the make the space safe for kids. It's really the learning. Of course, we prepare them for school. I also believe in academic skills and their importance at that early age. Uh, we of course we prepare them for school, but I really see that as the tip of iceberg. That they of course learn their ABCs and the numbers, that all the amazing skills that's going to help them in their school career. But I I think what we do is to create a strong relationship where they trust us, where they love us, so they can be themselves, and then we can use that bridge of relationship to transfer anything to them, so they see us as these respected friends, and they take our words for it. So when I tell my student that I'm so proud of you, you worked really hard on this. I saw what you did there. Like, you solved the problem. You didn't give up.
Mhm.
So what happens in their brain is that they're understanding that, because they're hearing this from someone that they love and trust, they're believing in that. And that goes a long way.
And it's so true. And I have to say, I'm really grateful that I grew up in a home where I didn't have, my mom was very young, she was a teenager. And so I really did not have the typical model of like what parents should be or what they should look like. And so when I had my son, I had no idea how to parent him. I really did not have a clue because I was an only child that wasn't raised around a lot of kids. Granted, I did have education from becoming a therapist and a trauma therapist and really diving in deep, but
Yes.
it forced me to really read every single book that I could find on how to parent a strong-willed child, how to do like bottom up parent or top down parenting, and learn how to speak to him in a way that he was going to listen to me and he was going to respect me. And so I soaked up so much knowledge so that I could change the way that I parented him for what he needed and what his personality was. And if he didn't have me as a mom, he would have been severely medicated. He would have been completely labeled. As of right now, it's like ADHD, but it's like, is that really a thing that I want him to have the rest of his life? Sure. Does he fit that category? Yeah. And that's not who he is. And that's not how I see him. So
I love
it
that.
really is so important for us as parents to know that we can do what we need to do at home, because intuitively we know what's right, right? When certain things weren't working for me, when I tried this, it's called like parent and child training program. And my gut intuition was like, this is not the way that I want to be parenting my child. Like, I did not feel right putting him in timeouts for hours, letting him scream without like me giving him attention, right? Like at such a young age, at 3, like we are the party that is responsible for helping our children co-regulate their emotion. And
Yes.
what I did love about that program was something similar that you were talking about, where they talked about unhurried special playtime, where they gave me like 5-10 minutes where it was just focused on the child and like commenting on what the child is doing. Like, oh, you put the blue hat on the boy, or wow, like, look at how you figured out that problem, and really just praising them and building them up and building up their self-esteem, which I think is so important that we just don't know. We're not taught how to be a parent. And
Yes.
oftentimes we do what our parents have taught us, which then just repeats the pattern and recycles the wounds that we carry in us because our parents didn't give us what we needed.
Yes.
And I just love that you are doing that for the children, because probably a lot of the kids that you work with maybe either do have the parent or the parent's too busy or whatever thing that we put into place because mothers have been taken out of the homes, fathers have been taken out of the
Mhm.
homes. Like we are out of the way that I believe we were intended to be, right? Like we were
Yes.
not supposed to do this alone. And I love that you said
No.
it does take a village. And so you're
Yeah.
stepping in to sort of be that liaison to teach the child and to teach the parent, it sounds like, how to develop these skills and how to work with
There,
them.
yes, no, we can talk about this for 3 days because
I
there are so
know.
many points that you pointed out that I can talk for hours. And yes, our conversation started as like how Intella Kids started. But as I go through with Intella Kids, as I work with hundreds of parents, I have realized that, first of all, I want to say parenting is not easy.
Mm.
And I'm not a parent, but it looks like one of the most difficult jobs on earth. I always tell the moms especially, like, you are enough, you're doing your best. You are a conscious parent who is strongly connected with your like feelings, intuition, gut feelings, which is amazing. And your background in psychology helps a lot because it's really all psychology.
Mm-hmm.
Again, what I was trying to say, yes, I teach academic skills to my students, but I have a lot of psychological knowledge behind it, so I can make that connection with my students.
Yeah.
However, it came to my understanding, my realization that nobody teaches you how to be a parent. Yes, I have been around so many different like portfolio of children. It's like so many. I have seen so many children from so many different backgrounds, and but when I think about a parent, let's say who's an engineer who has never been around siblings or other children, and now he has this little baby on his hand or her hand, and they don't know what to do. And parenting is one of the most spiritual teachers because it makes you wanna, it triggers you. It makes you wanna go back to your childhood. It like a lot of time when I talk to my parents, my students' parents, it's really their triggers. The child, there's nothing like wrong going on with the child, but they have a lot of fear about around being parent, like being a parent. And I can only imagine it's the kind of, I have never experienced, but I know it's the biggest form of love that you can experience in this consciousness.
It's so true. One of the things that I love,
gives a lot of
go ahead.
Like responsibility. That of course you wanted to raise the best child, of course. It's just parenting. What makes parenting difficult is not only that your child is pushing all your buttons, and it's not easy 7 to 24 to deal with a human being that their frontal loop hasn't improved yet, where it comes to when you said I need to cooperate with him, because their frontal brain loop is not really developing until they're 25. And you need to be that frontal brain loop where things are logical or make sense. But when you deal with someone who still hasn't learned how things make sense in terms of like creating an empathy, or let's give an example, like they wanted to eat the like entire cake, but they can only have like the half piece of it because they need to share, but they still don't have these understandings. So the parent needs to be there and cooperate with them and be that frontal loop for them, especially by modeling. And it's just, to me, this is like not easy. It's a lot of work for the parents, and I'm sure when it comes to the points where it's getting challenging, I'm sure it's not easy for the parent, but it really starts with the parent. A lot of time, the child is just being and doing what he came to this world to do.
That's right.
And parent needs to do the self-work.
And it's so hard when you're not when they're not doing that self-work. You know, I work with
Yes.
a ton of parents in my practice, and I love them and I empathize with them. And I always advise them to read two specific books. One of them is No Bad Kids. The other one is Parenting Without Power Struggles, because it's usually the parent that starts the struggle based on certain expectation or fear.
Right.
And I always, you know, when it came back down to parenting my kid, the one quote that always stuck out with me personally was that defiance is not a behavior problem. It is a connection problem, because when you are connected with your kid and that you are both in alignment with love and with play and with joy and all of that stuff that make us really bond, then the child wants to please, right? They have an innate desire to
Of
be
course.
happy. And
Yeah.
it's not that they are defiant or they're resisting or pushing up against you because they don't want to listen to you. Like, they're trying to figure out where they fit in the world, right? So because we're the adults, we have to be the ones that do the work to understand this and to know this.
I wanted to say that I have this quote that if a child could do it, they would do it. And that really resolves the whole, like, understanding the child. If a parent can only wanted to understand one thing, especially during those crises, if a child can do it, they will do it. If they don't do it, there's a reason behind it. And if we can learn how to just look why this is happening and what's the reason behind it, and that's where the connection starts. And connecting with a child is not easy, especially in today's world. Kids have always been sneaky in a way. They will try you. They will try their limits, their boundaries, and but it will be the parents' work to, like, create the boundaries, create the connection. And in order to create that connection, I think it will be the great beginning to understand that if they can do it, they, like you said, they wanted to please you, they want to love you, they want to be happy around you, but they don't always know how to do that. They especially don't know how to ask for help. So a lot of time their way of asking help looks in different forms. So yeah, that's one thing. If they can do it, they will do it. I love
that. It's so true. And I also really look at, you know, and I teach too, that kids don't know how to talk about their feelings and they don't know how to express themselves. And so their feelings are coming through their behaviors, right? If you want to know how they're feeling, look at how they're behaving. So how do you incorporate, I know something that one of the foundations of what you teach, like, is emotional intelligence for kids. So how do you start with that? Like, what is your process for teaching this in the home?
So yes, I go to, well, first of all, being a parent and being a teacher, or being a friend who comes and sees you in different times, is two very different settings.
Sure.
Yes, I do have a little bit more discipline with children. However, since I work with young children, like they're 3 and 4 years old, and I go to their homes, so there are times that it's just they're having a tantrum by the time I enter in, and this is something that they cannot help. So this is a great teaching moment for me, for the parents and for the child. So there is no just one formula that you do this and then your child is going to learn how to regulate their emotions, how to recognize them. It's these small moments I would say, small conflicts that you get to practice. You get to be the model.
So good.
And kids don't learn by words. They learn by actions. And when I enter into, let's say I enter into a house and the mom is crying, the child is crying, and these things are real, and it happens in the homes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And the child is having 3-year-old having the tantrum, and in that point, I'm not gonna try to convince the child what he does is not logical, because his brain doesn't work that way.
That's right.
And I am just gonna connect with him, try to connect with him, just being there. It depends on his level of anger. Just being there in a little space. I hear you, I see you. With all my body, all my words. I don't use a lot of words. I would say, looks like you're very upset. Just that's it. Kids don't understand after certain words. They don't hear it. And in that level of like emotions, that intense emotions, they're not going to hear much. And I'm there with my presence, and I am fully in my present. And then 3-4 minutes passes. One thing I love about children, that they really come back quick, and they don't really like think about that. And it's the past. It was that moment, and it passed, and now they're happy. So after 3-4 minutes, if they seem like they would receive, I will give them a hug. I would offer them something they like to do. So at that point, I'm not thinking about my lesson that I have planned for them. I'm thinking about how can I use this moment as a teaching moment and talk about it. And of course, I don't talk about it during. After they feel calmed, I tell them, sometimes I feel frustrated like that too. Sometimes I give them real examples that this happens to me as well. And at that moment, their eyes, the way their eyes are opened, and they're just like, at that moment, I feel the connection by our like exchange. They don't feel alone. They know that that's normal. It happens, and they're accepted the way they are. And of course, the mom is there, hearing, watching. And my biggest takeaway from those moments, that at least mom sees how this, because it's easy to read the books. I've read so many books about children. I've wrote papers on my own, and I've read so many articles. And in real life, in practice, that's why one size doesn't fit all. You can read all the books that you want. And I know, as I don't have a child, but when I have a child, I know I'm not going to be able to use most of the knowledge that I know when it comes to that moment.
That's right.
So it's really like at the beginning, like I said, this is not an overnight change. And I have lots of respect for moms. It's not an easy job, but it is like small steps towards the positive enforcement, because this is not, I don't see this as just one moment. I see this a teaching moment when this child becomes an adult, have co-workers, have a romantic partner, and have a conflict with a friend. That's what they're going to be doing, because you're showing them how to, not only telling them, but showing them how to accept your feelings, recognize them, and know that they're just momentarily, they're just gonna be away, like go away. So I don't teach my students to say, I don't encourage them to say, I am not successful, let's say, but I don't feel successful at this moment.
Absolutely. The language is so important.
Yes, the language is very important. So these are the things that I will do, the practices I will do. Like, I think the core message in here is that just be the model And especially during those tantrums or critical moments, don't try to lessen the child, because they're not going to be able to understand. If they could, they would. Again, they're not going to be able to. So I connect emotionally with your child during those times, because they need you. They're asking for your attention. When my students are calm, I talk to them and they understand, like as young as 3 years old, understand that why am I here, what we are doing together, and all the logistics, all the expectations that I have, they understand and they follow through. And I'm assuming that will be the same thing with parenting. When there's a tantrum, you will just give that comfort to your child, and when things are calmer, you do want to talk about it and show them self-respect. Yes, this happened, but I wasn't really okay with it. What made you feel that angry? Or this is my expectation for the next time.
I love that. You're again speaking my language with what I believe and what I try to practice, and also what I teach, but also not shooting for perfection, because it is practice and we're not going to do it right all the time.
No.
But I always say, like, think about it from a logical perspective. Adults have a really hard time taking in information and taking in correction when we're in a reactive state, right? If you're angry, if you're upset about something, if you want something and you're not getting it, or something doesn't go your way, we are not in the right part of our brain to be able to receive any type of correction.
That's true.
So oftentimes, like, the parent will add fuel to the fire, which I'm certainly guilty of, absolutely, because we don't understand that the child is not in a state, and we certainly aren't in a state as adults, to be able to take in feedback or to be corrected on what someone, wants for us. So I'm always like, if someone is in a reactive state, if you're triggered, if your survival part of your brain, I call it your downstairs brain, is active, it takes time to get into the more logical part of your brain to be able to receive that message or have that dialogue, right? Me and my son, sometimes we would have major blowouts. We picked a spot which was underneath the kitchen table, because that's where he felt safe to talk to me. And
I love that.
we literally would draw it out. We would write it out, okay, this was my part, this was your part, what do you think we could do to solve this problem? And I worked with him, because we had this thing we would do, tickle party, and he didn't like that when I was done, or he didn't want to be done. Right. So it was this huge temper tantrum about not wanting to be done. So it was this whole thing where I was like, all right, well, let's come up with some ideas of how to end it so that we both get our needs met. Right. So I think when you include the child in the problem solving a bit, versus kind of making it like, this is my way, I'm the parent, we do what I say because I said so, like that really old model of parenting. What we are finding, or at least what I'm seeing with a lot of the children that I know and the parents that I work with, these kids are not coming in accepting that any longer. They have their own way of being, and their own way of really wanting to show us or teach us how to treat them as the little human beings that they are, with their own intelligence that we don't often foster from the way that things used to be.
Right, absolutely. Again, this is the biggest message that I like to give to the parents out there, that it doesn't have to be perfect.
That's right.
And it's not going to be perfect, and it's perfectly okay to be mad at your child, to yell at your child. It's when this, as long as this is not this is not the consistent reaction that you give, it's once in a while reaction that you cannot take it anymore, there's a repair that you can do, and it works. It only affects the child when it's consistently the child getting reaction of anger with you or temper from you. And but we are human beings, and moms are human beings too. Right. Human beings with lots of like responsibilities, lots of emotional connections with that child. So it's okay to show temper, but like you do, uh, what you do is, we call it as educators, repair.
Mm-hmm.
And what you do with your son is beautiful, that after you both blow off and show temper, you come to a safe place that you dedicated in home, that he feels safe, and you work with him and you go under the table and you talk through it. That's repair. And during the repair, you can say, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to yell at you. It's not okay for me to yell at you. I just couldn't control my feelings. Another teaching moment, that you're not only telling your child,
Yeah.
you're showing your child that I make mistakes and it's okay. And what a beautiful relief in world, on earth, that it's okay to make mistakes.
I love that. Yeah, because I think that parents are so afraid to show their kids that they're not perfect or that they don't have all the answers, right? But what we're, teaching from that model is that the kids are supposed to have the answers, and they don't trust themselves to figure it out because the parent is the one that's in charge. And then the
Yeah,
child doesn't know how to listen internally to like lead with their moral compass, right? They learn not to trust themselves because I trust my parent, like they're the
right.
ones that are telling me everything. And then they go into the world really not knowing how to lead their lives or how to navigate relationships or people or jobs or things like that because they don't have that inner confidence.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I do believe, again, this is becoming to the circle back to the beginning of the conversation. Kids really do come to this world, this earth, this consciousness, with knowing why they are here for.
Mm.
And as parents, it's not their job to trust us. It's our job to trust them. And when you really observe a child without having any framed beliefs in your mind, when you really observe a child will tell you. They will tell you what they want, how they want, and it's that's one thing that I love about it. It's that when you're present and when you're just watching the child, they're actually perfect. They
That's
know
so
what they're
true.
doing, and they are just living this life in the way that we are meditating for hours to come to their state of mind. So when you think about it, the math is actually wrong here. It's we need to learn from them,
I
and
love that.
it's like they are the higher consciousness that when they first came to the earth, they know what they're how to enjoy the moment. And all the things
So
that I
true.
do spiritually, that I try to achieve, kids already do it, and I learn from them. And that's my biggest aha moments, that maybe, like, if as a parent, as an educator, if someone listens to this, maybe there's something that I need to learn, I need to change.
Mm.
um,
So true.
it's they know what they're doing when they come here, and because of all the peer pressure, all the parents, I would say, parenting that they receive, that of course they also come into different religions, different beliefs, so they grow up learning and limiting themselves.
Yeah. So what would you say to a parent that has the mindset of I know what's best for my child? Like
It's
in the sense of um like their way of thinking is not right, and if they don't do it my way, then they're going to end up in trouble. Or I get a lot of that
mm,
through my practice around I know what's best for them, and I think that for me comes from a place of like fear, right, of not trusting that
right.
they're their own divine entity that has their own agenda for how they want to experience their life. So what are your thoughts about that?
So that's a very good question. When when a parent that has very strict opinion like that, I would probably try to convince them with the generational differences.
Mm,
So yes, they may grow. Yes, like because you're right, it comes from the fear base. It doesn't come from trust or love that I want to accept my child the way they are, because I I will think they haven't accepted themselves the way they are, and
interesting. Yeah.
it's I wouldn't really be able to say that, but I would probably point out the generational differences, that it's different in today's world than it was in your childhood. And it's really different. Technology made a huge difference. And really, like, if you keep saying, I know the best for my child, and if you keep trying to put that child in a box, you're going to have a lot of issues in their future. And it's
Yeah.
going to be like uh, they're gonna lose respect to you at some point, because
Makes sense.
children are innocent, and they're very loving, and they admire their parents in the young childhood, and then when they come to teenage become a teenager, their hormones are changing, and then that's going to be a very difficult parenting. It's it it may look different. It may sound more difficult um, to change your belief system around your parenting, around like how your child should be, or really doing the self work on your own. That
Yes.
if you really think that you know how to raise a child, and you don't want to accept the child the way he is or she is, it really goes back to you as a parent, that there are some self work needs to be done. So that may sound difficult, but if you do that, if you choose to like take that path and do the self work, and if you choose to open your mind a little bit, that this generation is very different with technology, and you can really lose this respect, and your child could do anything and everything they want without telling you. It's more dangerous. So if you choose to like work on yourself and accept that this is a very different world that we are living in, and be a little bit open-minded about it, you're gonna earn so many years of comfortable parenting. I always
Yeah.
say it's like an investment, that if you could do like accept your child and do expose your child all the like beautiful possibilities on this earth by the age of 7, you will have a very easy parenting. But it takes some self work. It takes some. I I don't know how I would tell a parent that you need to change. That's not like really like the education is not going to happen there if you think that
Sure.
you know it all for your child. If you can have a little bit room to understand, to accept the fact that you are going to also learn from your child also knows what is best for him, like trust your child. um yes, that will be the
Yeah.
advice, I guess, the short advice I would give.
And I love that because it is the invitation. And the truth is that parents really want to connect with their kids and they want
Yeah.
to have a relationship with their children and they do want what's best. But I think it is that challenge that can be a delicate conversation around
Mm-hmm.
helping a parent identify, well, where does that belief come from? And what if you
Yes.
just did an experiment around in a way that feels comfortable to give them a little bit more freedom in this area or see what would happen if you tried a different approach and ultimately make them the decision makers. But I think that it somewhat helps parents soften when I could see the pressure coming off
Mm-hmm.
when they're like, oh, you mean there's a different way or a different approach? And like, I don't have to be this way and I'm actually somewhat of the cause of the resistance. Like, teach me, show me, help me learn the way so that I could change. like really the relationship with my child. Because when that starts to happen, you can get to a place of enjoying the relationship, right? Where you spend
Of
time
course.
together and they become like a joy. For the first half of my child's life, I was like, I was in such a stressed out state myself that it really took a lot of work to heal some of my own trauma around certain things. But ultimately, that he was always my mirror. Right. If
Mm,
something was coming up
yeah,
in me, I always knew that that was my stuff. My child wasn't doing anything to me. My kid was just being a kid. And
right.
I love the foundation that you're coming from and teaching that, right? Kids are going to be kids. And because they're children, they're going to expose in you what is unhealed in you that is your work.
Absolutely. You couldn't have said it better.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's not the child's job to change. It's your child, it's your job to change your perception and like heal some of those, unmet needs or those wounds that are coming up in
Yes.
you that your child is unintentionally triggering.
And unfortunately, education cannot happen without the parents.
Yes.
So it's one of my biggest, I would say, challenges
Mm,
in my work, that a lot of time I see nothing wrong on the child.
mhm.
I love my clients. They're incredibly open, generous, sweet, and like you said, they want to offer the best to their children. It just, with unconsciously, without knowing, a lot of time the parent is the problem because of their expectations, because what neighborhood's child is doing, because of the comparison, because of the like keeping up. And I have so many parents that come to me, and I find it quite ironic in again in today's world. They come to me and they say, "Oh, my child, I saw all the other kids' handwriting in the classroom, and my child's handwriting looks terrible."
Mhm.
So they really, this is a big problem for them, and this really bothers them. Like, and what in my mind, I'm thinking, your child has so many other amazing qualities
Yeah.
that I see among that 100 different child that I'm seeing. And plus, your child is not gonna write with hand. There's technology. They're gonna speak to the phone, and the phone, AI is going to write everything perfectly for them, right? It's
So
like,
true.
yeah, yes, I am a big believer in like teaching everything right, but if that child uh, is in an amazing emotional state, who can have back and forth very like intelligent conversation, and whose math is amazing, like all the things that I could count, if their handwriting is bad, I'm not even going to try to correct it and accept them the way they are, with all the like beautiful qualities. It's a lot of time it's the parent, it's not the child, because the parent sees other parents,
I
they
think
see
it's so
the
important you
other
said that,
kids.
right?
Yes.
It really is. And let's just say it to all the parents out there and the people who want to be parents, it is not an easy job. And if you are trying to fit your child into a mold of what you think your child should be, then you will significantly suffer. Take my advice. I tried with my incredibly
Mm.
strong willed, quote unquote, labeled ADHD child to fit him into the box that society wanted him to fit in. And none of it worked until I gave up my expectation of trying to fit him into that box and
Thank you, thank
really,
you. That's
really, really
an example.
seeing him for his amazing gifts and his amazing qualities. And I did have friends that supported that. And I had friends who didn't agree with the way I parented or the way that I talked to him or the way that I handled things. And I also had people on the other side being like, there's nothing wrong with your child. He's incredible. He's amazing. Like, look at how well he can articulate himself. Like, look at how he speaks. And like every person out there, when you're angry or you're upset with something, it takes a lot of skill to learn how to regulate that emotion and learn how to handle your anger appropriately. But what I learned not to do was to shame him for that or correct him for that or to get involved in a way that's going to make volcano erupt more. It's like, let's figure out how to make it work for him. And he's thriving because I
Of
changed.
course.
I
Yes.
changed myself. I was
Thank you.
forced to
Thank you.
to let go of everything. And there was a lot of prayer in there, and there was a lot of surrender, and there was a lot of
Thank
trust,
you. Yeah.
to really just stop trying to fit him into the box. And since I've done that, it has been so much more enjoyable to parent him.
This is beautiful to hear. Again, I don't have a child. I know all my instincts and gut feelings are telling me that's the way to do. Like it's usually not about the child. It's about you, and you need to do the work on yourself to be a conscious parent and to make parenting easier for yourself. But it's so nice to hear from a mom who has done the work. You're literally voicing my feelings in the form of mother who experienced the both ways. And you didn't only become a better mom for doing the work, by the way. You also probably became a better sister, better friend, better daughter. It's
Completely.
just like better neighbor. It's not like you're just doing it for your child. The child is that mirror, that teacher that comes into your life, which I strongly believe they choose you for a reason.
That's right.
I wouldn't say this to every parent out there. They may have different beliefs, but it's really, in my opinion, that child chooses you for a reason. And what is that reason? What that child came to chose you as a mom, as a dad. What he's or she's trying to teach you, show you. It's really it helps you as a person. It helps the mom and dad as a person to just like enlighten their world a little bit more.
Yeah, it just decreases the pressure, right? When it's just
Yes.
like, this is not, there's something bigger going on here to really take into consideration. And yes, and I do believe that my child came through me, and that I do not own him, and that he is not mine. And I know that that's not what everybody agrees with. But on those times when I am gripped with fear around how will he turn out, or what is he going to do, or how is it going to work out for him when he has a job and he talks like that to his employer, or whatever my inner
Yes.
shamer wants me to get into, it's like, no, 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 pause, take a break. Like, let's just really surrender and trust to the fact that he chose me as his mom, and everything is going to be perfectly okay
Yes.
for what he came here to work through, because we all come here with wounds, we all come here with karma, we all come here with patterns that we as individuals want to release and overcome. And I know that I am a part of that for him. Is it perfect? No, but he has things that he needs to work through as a soul that he chose me to help him work through. So that's the foundation that I always go back
Yes.
to, that releases that pressure valve when I get gripped with fear.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I can imagine as a parent that you are, that it's easy to feel the fear. Again, this is the center of your heart. Every time I work with a child, I work with their parents. I know that this child is the center of their heart. They're the most precious thing that they ever have. So it's so easy to come from fear. But I promise you, I assure you that if you could do the self work, if you could trust that the child came to your life for a reason, and you are supposed to be in his or her life to, like you said, to walk through, to teach him the things that he needs to learn. It just, parenting is fun. It becomes fun. It becomes this strong bonding that you work together. You see from each other. You learn from each other. It's very harmonic. You always come back to each other. It's beautiful. What I am trying to teach, or I guess put the message out, is that if you don't do the work, especially at the early ages of your child, like around your child's age, If you don't do the work, you're gonna have a more difficult, I would say, 30 years, maybe, easily, approximately. So when I think about that, I think I would much rather to work during the time that my child's brain development is 90% completed by the age of 7. I would much rather to work between that age of 2 and age of 7 for 5 years, do the work that I need to do, and show my child that I am not perfect, but I'm a work in progress, and be vulnerable to show, to let my child to see my down parts as well, and work it together with him. So the next 30, 40 years that you're going to probably witness your child's life, you're going to have this thriving best friend in your life. You're going to have this responsible person who trusts you. So let's put in an example. If your child is raised in a like strict environment, and where when he makes mistakes, he knows that you're going to immediately punish him or judge him. Let's go fast forward and see that child is at a party. He's 16 now. He's at a party, or she's at a party that she doesn't feel comfortable. She doesn't feel safe. Is she gonna call you when she's doing something wrong, and she's gonna trust that you will be his or her safe spot? Or she's gonna go with a stranger and do even more, like, I will say, dangerous things? So it's, when I think about this, like, it's clear. Do I want to be the parent when my child is teenager and it's in an uncomfortable situation? Is he gonna call me first? Am I gonna be his safe place? Or is he going to ask for a like solution somewhere else?
Yeah, I use the example all the time of, like, if your kid knows that they're going to get in a car with a drunk driver, do you want them to be able to call you and say, I don't feel safe, come and get me? Or they get in the car because they are scared they're going to get in trouble. And I had to work really hard on that. And I know parents do too. Like, this is not easy. I used to be the parent that always thought that my kid was the problem. I did. I really had to work hard on being like, no, let's change that. Let's really look at him as like, no, he's not the problem, and learn how to collaborate and talk to him and understand him and see where he's coming from and why he made the decisions that he made. Granted, my child is 10, so he's not 3 or 4, but you can still do it on a certain developmental level.
Of course.
For him to now know, and I've worked really hard, thanks to a dear friend of mine, around, your child needs to know that you are the one that will always have his back, or hers, right? Like, my kid knows, like, I have your back no matter what. However, you need to tell me the truth, because if you're not honest with me about something, and I'm going to battle for you with your school or with your coach or with your dad or whoever it is, I need to know that I have all of the information, whether you were right or wrong, or you feel bad about it. I can't advocate for you if you're not fully transparent and open and honest with me. And that has been an amazing thing that him and I have really learned how to create around, if I do this for you or get you switched out of this class or whatever the case is, like, you have to do your part here. Do we have an agreement?
And that's a beautiful example that this is a teachable skill.
Yes.
It can be teachable. So it's a beautiful example. No matter if you've done, I'm not gonna say there's such a thing like wrong parenting, because I think every parent is doing their best. And if that's their best at the moment, that doesn't consider wrong to me. Let's say you didn't do it right until like the age of 10. And the age of 10, you have this biggest realization that you wanted to fix the things. And that's doable.
Absolutely.
Again, you can repair it. You just need to really do the work and be vulnerable. And your child may not see that in one event, or in 2 events, in 5 events, and then on the 10th event that he sees that you are being vulnerable, you're doing the work, you're trying to change
Mhm.
things, they're going to learn from you, and that they're going to change. Their energetical level is also going to change with your energy level. And you can still create a bond, and you can still show them that you were wrong. You didn't know any
Absolutely.
better.
And it's never too late to repair it,
No,
right? Ever,
no,
ever. And it's never too late to come at your child and say, I don't have all the answers, and we're in this together, and we're going to figure this out. I'm not
beautiful,
perfect. Like
beautiful,
I tell people all the time, like, no
beautiful.
one really knows what they're doing. Like,
Right,
no one really
exactly.
knows. And so it's
No,
okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to say that you didn't handle something perfectly and that you want to talk about it. Because I think, and I know just because I'm a trauma therapist and I've been doing this work for over 20 years, is that the relationship that the child has with the parent is the most important relationship for their development as an adult.
thank
And
you. Yes,
so, and I love what we said earlier before we hit record was like, you're actually teaching that from the beginning, right? So I'm
yeah.
getting the work to like to undo and unwind the wounds and to help people understand what they did need and didn't get. And so you're actually starting from the beginning of their lives around this is the way to teach them and to see them, right? Because the way we see our children is the way they will grow up to see themselves.
Yes, beautiful.
And so you're starting from like a very younger level, the things that we didn't have, like when, when we were young, you're bringing that into the collective, into the world right now, which I think is so beautiful. So what is your dream that you told me before we started today?
So, well, yes, my dream is to raise a generation that doesn't have to recover. But
I would
they,
love to not need a
they
job or
right. Well, that's
in that way,
also the way you said it. That it's again, it's two very different generations, and I adore what you do. I respect what you do, and including myself, I think we adults, we don't need to be parents. We all need to go back to those moments
Mm,
and recover from them, fix them, as we are becoming our own parents after a certain age, right? So,
absolutely.
and I'm not saying that the today's world's kids are not going to have trauma. They will, but as an educator, as a person who's very passionate about education, if I can raise the awareness a little bit more to at least like reduce the trauma level to 50% from the 100%, to me that's a win, because it's not only about me. That child is also coming to the world to learn lessons.
Yeah.
So I cannot be, even if I was a mom, I'm not going to be able to control my child's life. That's why we say you don't own that child. There is like, I have a very, very little control in the child's life, because that child is going to be exposed in different social circumstances. And
Absolutely.
that child is going to have conflicts in their friendships, and not everyone is going to be kind and understanding and safe for them. And those are lessons as well. I know probably as a parent, it's hard to hear that your child is going to have conflicts, is going to have a crush on someone that is not very, nice, kind to them, is going to be feeling like discluded in a friendship environment, is going to feel failure. And I think
Yeah.
these are all beautiful lessons if we can trust. And no, I'm not saying I'm going to raise the generation that is 100% trauma free. I'm saying that I wanted to raise the awareness among the parents, and being a model, doing the work, and that works, and showing my students that they are just one of a kind on this entire universe, and there is nothing like them, and they are just beautiful the way they are. And anything else is teachable, is they can improve themselves. they can discipline themselves. These are the tools that I would like to teach them. So when they are in those situations, when they are in this like conflicts with friends, with teachers, with a stranger on the street, they know it's not their fault. It's not their problem. It's that probably that person is going through a difficult time, having a difficult day. So that will reduce lots of the unnecessary trauma. If I knew as a child all these things that I'm teaching my students, that all these things that you're already perfect, there's nothing wrong with you. If I knew that as a child, I would have avoided so many unnecessary small traumas that really became part of me today and shaped me, and that gave me all that insecurity and fear.
Absolutely.
But yes, there's always going to be a need for your job.
It's wishful thinking, right? The more beautiful world that we all want to create.
Yes,
it is happening, and it's a slow process. And I think it always comes back to, what we are seeing outside of us that is upsetting us is always a call to action, to take a deeper look around what's coming up in you and to do that work so that you can clear out that fear, that anger, that energy, that sadness, to create space in the body, create space in the heart, to be able to lead and connect with more love, right? The older we get and the more pent-up emotion we have and the more trauma we have, the more and more and more we disconnect and we stay in that fear-based state. And I just love what you're saying around like building that self-esteem from such a very, very young age, because that is something that is, well, we're born with it. We come into the world with it. We don't feel flawed until the world starts to shape us. And then we start to compare ourselves to the world and think that there's something wrong with us because we didn't have the parents that poured the blessings into us. And in my belief, the way that the Heavenly Father and the Heavenly Mother pour into us and see us as blessings and see us as perfect, we often get sometimes like the curse, where we're always corrected. We're always, we tend to point out what we do wrong so much more than we point out what we do right. And we do that with our kids because that's what we do to ourselves. We are constantly in our heads criticizing ourselves and shaming ourselves and being upset with ourselves instead of really looking at what we're doing well, because that's just how we've been conditioned to be. And I really believe that we are on the forefront of changing that, and that we are the first generation and the first wave to bring a new way of being into existence. And so I love that you are starting with kids so young to plant those seeds, because I truly wouldn't be the person I am today without those teachers and without those other people seeing something in me that I didn't yet see in myself.
Yes.
So thank you so much for the work that you are doing.
Of course, it's my pleasure. I love what I do.
It's so
and
good.
circling back to how Intella Kids started, it was all me just wanting to be around children, and I did it for free for so many years. And I really didn't care about like if I make a living out of it. I just really genuinely wanted to be around children. I did a lot of babysitting, a lot of free volunteer work. I know from the very very soon in my life that it's been my higher purpose, higher soul purpose to be connected with children. And I'm just so happy that I get to do what I love to do, and now I make a living out of it. I created 2 companies out of it, so I'm very grateful.
Right. It's following those breadcrumbs of like what it is that you desire and where you feel most like yourself, what interests you, what brings you joy, what you love. And yours from a very young age just happened to be children. Right. I remember reading about how since your baby sister was born, you were just witnessing her and observing her. And like, little did you know that was your calling. That was your dharma. That was your higher purpose.
I was fascinated.
Create. It's crazy.
I was fascinated that I saw she was born with very little, and I was able to, like, thanks to my mom, she gave me lots of room to be around her, to actually take care of her. And I remember the first words that she was saying, the first time she said her first word, the first time she said her first sentence. And I was fascinated how that child, that little baby, became this like smart brain that can walk on her own, that can talk on her own. Like it's just, yeah, I was fascinated watching that brain development, that physical development.
And most of us don't even consider that because that's not our zone of genius, right? Like for you, it was like this clearly was what you were meant to
Yes,
do, which I think supports the whole thing that we've been talking about this whole time is that every child comes into this world with certain gifts and certain interests and certain things that they are called to create in the world as they grow. And if
yes.
you would have had a different circumstance or would have been sort of like shamed out of that or conditioned out of that, you may not have found your, I think you would have found your way because that's how the spirit works.
Yes.
But I think we take a lot of detours because it's the unprogramming and unwinding of what we're not to become what we are and to follow that inner call and that desire that is put on each one of our hearts that we're just conditioned out of because we've been misguided as a culture.
I yes, I mean, once the desire is in you, it's really hard to avoid. I went to engineering school. I
Mm.
didn't. Yes, first I went to geological engineering school. It's funny. I knew I loved children. I got along with so many kids that I babysat in my family. I just didn't. But because of the circumstances, I wasn't available to go to education program, so I chose to go to like the engineering program. And it's so funny that I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it in engineering. Every night I will think, what am I going to do when I graduate, when I was studying engineering, because it so did not fit me.
Yeah.
It was so difficult for me to try to finish something that I don't know if I'm gonna enjoy the rest of my life.
Right.
But uh, the second year I quit. I didn't tell my parents anything because yes, it was the second semester. I completely quit the college. I didn't go to any finals or anything, and I dedicated myself to study for this exam that you're supposed to take and do very well in order to go to an education school. And I dedicated my 3 months without telling anyone. And it's the most miracle of my life because that's where I actually was able to break the cycle and see what I can do with my own power.
I
And
love
when
that.
I got into the early childhood education, it's just from that point, it has been uh, this true joy and like amusement and curiosity and fun. It hasn't ever been like, what am I gonna do? How am I going to make a living? And to be honest, like for a long time, I didn't make a living from this job. It has been last few years that I am thriving financially, but before it was really like as long as I paid my rent, I was okay being around children and do just what I love to do. So
It's
it's
beautiful,
yeah.
right? When you do what you love, it doesn't feel like work. And I
No, it
just,
doesn't. It hasn't.
yeah, honoring the courage that it took for you to really follow that call and to quit something that just didn't work for you. And I
Thank
think
you.
back to that fear, some, young kids that I know or college kids that are like, I don't even know why I'm going to college. I don't have any desire. And it's just like, no, you got to get an
Yes.
education. You got to get an education. Like it's so indoctrinated. It's like, I believe that that is shifting a bit. Um, and I think it's our job as parents to foster that exploration in our children to figure out what lights them up so that it doesn't feel like they're doing it for the wrong reason, right? Like there's
That's
no way that
beautiful.
there's no way
That
that
is
your
beautiful.
soul would have let you stay in that engineering program or that relationship or that job or that situation for very much longer because it would have eventually crumbled, whether that's
Yes.
crumbling internally or psychologically because you're under so much stress and whatever mental health symptoms are coming with that. because you're not in the right environment for your soul to thrive and make you feel alive and full and fun and like joyful with your life, right? When you're
Yeah,
doing what you ultimately feel called to do, there's a different energy attached to that.
absolutely. Absolutely. Um, yes, that's a beautiful point to um, to talk about. Again, we can talk about this
I know
for
we're going to
days.
wrap up. I promise everybody we're
Okay.
coming up on an hour and a half.
Yes.
So we're going to
Yes.
close it out, but I do want to talk
Okay.
about your toy line
Okay.
before we close. But go ahead with some last minute thoughts about that.
Yes, I was just thinking that's another beautiful point to for parents to I will say to be aware of that every person comes with their own gift to this world, and just if you can just let your child choose what they want. Of course, I'm not saying don't guide them, don't supervise them, don't tell them the consequences if there are any, but still let them try, let them do what they want to do, because a lot of people in this world, they're doing something they don't like doing because of the this social pressure that they're going to do better if they choose these certain jobs, they're going to do better if they choose this certain partner, and they're miserable and they have to do that for the rest of their lives. It's really not worth it.
That's right. And it's
Yeah.
soul crushing. Like it is soul crushing to your soul to be in a situation that you know does not resonate with you, and to push through it and grind through it for money or for approval or for whatever
Yeah.
external reason is out there. It will eventually, you know, the system will crumble or you'll crumble internally if you are not in line with your divine destiny. I stand behind that 100%. And that's actually what I do a lot of my work on with clients is, is really trying to get behind why they're doing what they're doing or why they're staying in a situation
Yes.
that's causing them to have anxiety, that's causing them to have dis-ease in their body, right? So we certainly could talk a lot about all of that. And I stand behind all of the work that you're doing. But I would, it doesn't feel
Beautiful.
right to not talk about or to share with the
Right.
world these incredible toys that you're bringing into kids' homes. So tell us
Oh.
about your toy line.
My toy line has happened after I started Intella Kids, and when I was doing the individual work with kids, one-to-one work, and I couldn't find like toys that teaches academic skills. I really, my biggest desire was like making education fun for my students, so they don't feel like Aysen is coming and we're gonna be sitting in a room and they're having this boring time. I wanted them to like look forward for me to come visit them, and that usually is the case. They wait at the door so I can come and play with them. So while I'm playing with them, they are learning so many different skills. And I, to most of my students, I teach them the alphabet, the sounds, the colors, the shapes, the numbers. So very basic foundations of academic skills that will help them thrive more in the classrooms, in the school. So anyways, I was making the toys by hand, creating really like whatever I find, like toilet paper, cardboards, just whatever I find, I would create a toy, something fun to teach my students these concepts, these skills. And I did this for so many years. And I love that. I realized that I love making toys. Like creativity is really like big part of me.
Yeah.
And I love design. I studied fashion design just for fun. So yes, I love creating. So I saw that I was in this beautiful state when I was creating the toys for my students. And it became to this bigger desire over the time that I want my toys to be in every house, because clearly I cannot be in every house interacting with every child, but toys can be my way of interacting with more children. So it's going to make me very happy if a parent plays with a toy with their child, and they learn, they create this bonding moment, and this quality time spending where they're having fun, but the child is learning so many skills that the parent doesn't even know that they need to learn, they need to know. And it's so exciting, because my higher purpose on this earth to reach as many children as I can. And I came up with my own toy line, Tome's Toys. And yes, and I created 2 toys that now is being sold on Amazon and on my website, tomestoys.com. And both toys have very beautiful academic purposes, that they're fun, but also they're teaching a lot of skills that a child needs to learn anyways before they go to school. And it's really a screen-free time. So there are only 2 toys right now, but I am coming up. I'm working on my 3rd toy right now. I'm literally in that like designing process, and it is. I'm not thinking that I'm ever going to stop making toys. Just knowing that it's the different, the kids that I don't know, probably I will never meet, are playing with the toys and learning skills. So I have this tile toy that is like learning possibilities are endless. I can teach my students the letters, uppercase and lowercase letters, without using any paper and pencil.
Awesome.
And to me, with young children, they cannot really grip the pencil, but I find also quite boring to try to teach young children something with paper, and they can try to create these patterns that they see on the cards on the board. So their cognitive skills are improving, their problem solving skills are improving. I see that there's a board, and they use the board as a free canvas. They write their names on it, they create their own pictures, they have these little tiles. So every time they try to grab the tile, it's the tile, like they are improving their fine motor skills. There's a lot of skills that are improving, as spatial awareness, memory, and patterns. These are very important skills, and they're just learning that by playing with this toy, and it really makes me very happy that I was able to do that.
Wow. I'm like, I love that your heart is going into it, right? So
Yes.
it's aligned with the right place. The intentions behind it are so pure. And it really is just to share that joy and share that play with children probably around the world, right? Because what we know,
That's the goal.
what research now proves and now shows is that children learn better through play, creativity, and using their imagination over anything we could teach them in the school system. That's how they learn, and that's how they grow into being, really thriving beings as adults. And I love that this was an inspiration for you, and it came from a place of pure desire of just wanting to give children something that they could play with, where they could learn those skills without it feeling like they were going to school. It's just what comes naturally to them. So like she said, you can find this toy line on Amazon, Tome's Toys.
Tome's Toys, yes.
Toys, love it. And you can also find her work at InstellaKids.com. Is that your website as well?
IntellaKids.com is, yes, my coaching students work. Yes.
Beautiful. And so where can we also find you on social media?
You can find me on social media at Intella Kids or at Tome's Toys. I have 2 different pages. Beautiful. And yes, you can find me on my website at tomestoys.com and intellakids.com. And you can find all the toys that I used to create by hand on my YouTube channel. I used to make toys and share it with parents. So if you're a parent who wants to teach your child with the materials that you have at home and teach meaningful lessons, you can watch my YouTube videos at Intella Kids.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. I think it's accessible to any parent.
Yes, to
Um,
any parents.
uh,
Yes.
well, this has been such a pleasure getting to know you on a deeper level. I can
Thank
see
you.
just you living out your dharma and your truth and just lighting up the world through play, through creativity, and really helping children see that they are perfect and that they are enough as they are, which is something I absolutely believe in and support. So thank you for all that you are doing to help this next generation thrive. You really are a gift.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here, being my first ever podcast
You're welcome.
friend that I wouldn't want to do with anybody else. And it's thank you also for creating the space, this channel, or this awareness about education and parenting.
Yes, you got it. I love you. And I'm
Thank you. I love
manifesting you being on many more podcasts because your voice needs to be heard
you.
and you have
Thank
so much to
you.
share. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, Alicia. Love
Bye.
you.
Love you too. Hey everyone, if you are a parent, if you want to be a parent, or you are a parent that does not know what to do with your kids, then this is the episode for you. I interview my dear friend Aysen Dogan, where she talks about the program that she developed, Intella Kids, her toy line, and really the foundation that we start with when it comes to parenting. So make sure that you listen to the full episode because I talk about a lot of my mistakes and how I corrected them as a conscious parent.